Lifeless estate has been abandoned by all but the ghosts haunting its halls. The Janitors Union have been itching for an opportunity to mop up this paranormal hotspot, and now they have their chance. On top of funding from the Union, you'll receive a fee for each ghost you catch during the latest battle in an endless war between the county's supernatural and sanitary forces. Build a crack team of janitors, train them in ghost capture, and de-haunt haunted rooms to catch as many ghosts as possible in a single year. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to 2 Point Campus, where today we're going to finally tackle and complete a gold rating in the newest challenge mode, which isn't as new as it was when I first started playing the challenge mode. So this one was really tough, and I had to buck my trend of trying to keep my campus intact for the entire year. Most of the tips from today's video come courtesy of Kirsty Stevens. I'm going to post her comment on my channel here so that you guys can see those tips and kind of follow them along yourself. But basically this involves a lot more micromanagement than we're usually used to when it comes to these challenge modes. Obviously the L one was pretty difficult, but this one, the Gradeyard Shift, requires you to do quite a lot if you're going to get that gold objective complete. I tried at keeping my campus intact and I only managed to get about 667, so it's really important that you kind of utilize the timetable as much as possible. So we're starting with a science lab here, which has been decked out as well decorated as possible, with some of those cheap posters surrounding each and every wall, and we do the same with our lecture theatre. Then we need to hire some school spirits teachers and build a dormitory and a few other items as well. So we're going to go with a dormitory now. We're going to make it fairly sizable, but then we're going to shrink it down. Now, according to Kirsty, you can do this with just the 2 beds in situ. I mean, we only do have 20 students on the course, and they're not important in the grand scheme of things. So we're just going to make a small dome with 2 beds and try and decorate it as best as we possibly can. Now, the great thing about it is when we reduce the size of this room itself, the actual attractiveness rating, the environmental rating of the room, the maximum kind of you need to achieve decreases. So once we put all of these posters in and then decrease the size of the room, the attractiveness rating taps out at the maximum. So the main kind of aim of an objective here is to get the heat sorted out and the attractiveness sorted out, just to keep your students happy. Now, originally I'd been hiring the highest level tutors I could possibly get and keeping them around for the whole year, but as suggested, it's better if you actually just have low rated teachers and hire 3 of them instead of 2 and have 1 in private tuition. So we're going to add a private tuition room to this one as well. That's going to help us out and increase the students' education rating as we kind of go through the year. Now, we get a number of bonuses to our finances from the 2 Point County, and that kind of is dependent on various factors. So it's the attractiveness rating, the happiness of your students, and the overall grade of your students. So if we have this private tuition in, they're going to boost their grades. Now, we're going to get a lot of requests for a library and stuff that involves improving grades through the library itself. We're going to ignore them and not build a library at all in this run. So obviously having the library, the students would be able to go there in the free time and try and get as many improvements to their grades as possible. Unfortunately, that kind of is another room in the campus to become haunted. Now, haunted rooms take up a lot of your janitors' times when they're kind of trying to de-haunt them. And 1 janitor de-haunting a room means 1 less janitor capturing ghosts, and we need more ghosts to be captured, so less rooms is good. Don't need the library. Your students' grades will be steady enough. And what we need to do is use the best of our initial funding to train up as many janitors as possible to begin with. The beginning of this level is key to your success. You could play the long game and try and get as much money in as possible to then train your janitors a little bit later on in the year, but I found in my playthroughs that my time kept running out and I wasn't training enough janitors to get us through the rest of the year continuing to catch ghosts. So now we're just going to jumble around the rooms a little bit and try and get this campus as small as possible. Having a small campus with very short corridors is going to help you out because it's less space for the ghosts to maneuver around and more chance that your janitors are going to bump into a ghost and start capturing them immediately. So I want a training room with 2 training pods in, and because I've had a little bit of an issue here, we just have to do a little bit of mixing around, get our lecture theatre shifted into position there, and then we can move the training room back across and expand it so that we can put the second training pod in. Having 2 training pods is very important because it's going to allow you to train 2 janitors at a time. If you get them all up to level 1, you then continue hiring janitors, and eventually that's going to allow you to pump out janitors at a very fast rate. I did run into a few issues here where I went into debt, but luckily having so many janitors, when you're capturing ghosts, they're going to give you income as well. You get about $200 for every ghost you capture, and I think some of the special ghosts might give you a little bit more, but I can't confirm that for sure. So we've got our 2 training pods in here, and this is pretty much it. That's our campus. We're going to hire our 2 school spirits teachers, and then bring in some janitors and immediately queue them up for training and ghost capture. Like I said earlier on, the first few months of this are your most important. Another point Kirsty mentioned in her comment, which I'm going to touch on now but come back to later, is if you look at the timetable, your rooms aren't used year round. So what you could do is really micromanage it, and once you don't have anyone using those rooms, you can actually remove them and then put them back in just before they're about to need use. But I didn't want to take that risk of not having enough money to actually put students through their course, so I left them in until I definitely knew I wasn't going to need them. The main one is your science lab. After around about January, you don't actually need the science lab at all because no lessons take place in there, so you can comfortably sell that off, decrease the size of your campus a little bit more, and then you've got that money to pump into training up and hiring new janitors. I took one janitor here who was just going to be doing maintenance and cleaning, and then every single janitor, when they come in, we let them do a little bit of work cleaning, helping get rid of the ectoplasm and stuff, and then we have them only doing ghost capture and de-haunting rooms. Now, we are going to be getting lots more stuff in terms of like the hauntings and stuff are going to happen. We can't do anything about that, but if we have less rooms, we can kind of manage it a little bit easier. Other than that, we don't have bathrooms, we don't have showers. We could have put them in, that would increase the happiness of our students, but we're going to try and fly right at the line here and not like allow much enjoyment on this campus, unfortunately. So here we are just queuing up our staff for training in ghost capture. We've still got about 6,000, 5,000 left, which means we can actually hire another janitor once the time comes around and we get some new applicants, and then we can queue them up again. We could probably do another, maybe one janitor, hire 2 janitors and train 1 in ghost capture with the finances we've got. And what we're going to be looking to do is only hire janitors who don't have any qualifications. Obviously, if things are getting a little bit tight, you're going to need to hire some that already have qualifications, because the larger output you have in terms of your janitors, the better. And you can't really afford to lose time once you start your year. You can't afford to lose that time waiting for a janitor with no qualifications to come along. So whilst it is more expensive to hire a janitor who maybe has aerodynamics or maintenance, you're going to feel the benefit when you train them up in ghost capture regardless. I tried to avoid hiring janitors who already had like maintenance or something. Aerodynamics is preferred because it obviously gives them that speed boost. So here we go. Our first set of student union funding comes from student happiness. So 2 janitors immediately going for training, and we're already catching ghosts. Now, in my previous playthroughs, I think I got to around about the December mark and I only had about 50, I think. Which meant I was playing catch-up for the rest of the year. Now, if you're looking to get the gold rating, you need to catch 700 ghosts or get 700 points from catching ghosts. That spread out over the 12 months kind of works out at around about, oh god, I'm making myself do maths here. It works out at around about, what, 80, I guess? No, it's not. It's even less than that. It's around about 65 per month. Now, to begin with, we're going to be slow progress, and eventually we'll hopefully catch up as the year progresses and overdo the 65 target. You can probably do it with a little bit less. I think I'd say probably it's actually around about 60 that you need per month. But as you can see, coming to the end of August, we've only caught 10 10. So we've still got a lot of work to do, but once we get more janitors in and start hiring and training, we should be okay. We've got 5,000 in the bank now, which means we can hire another unqualified janitor, come back down to their job assignment, take them off maintenance, cleaning and all of the other stuff, and then train them up in ghost capture. As long as we are training janitors at a steady rate, we'll be in a good position. I've put 2 vending machines in here, but like I've already mentioned, no toilets, no bathrooms. You want to keep everything nice and tight because, as you can see, the ghosts are just congregating in that hallway. Some of them spill out to the outside areas, but that's not a problem. You'll get most of them within the corridors here. We're going to put some radiators in now. That's going to just increase the thermal comfort rating of the rooms and the campus in general, and hopefully give our students a little bit of a happiness boost. You can see here they're only at 52%, and there we go. The first request for libraries and stuff is rejected. We're not going to be using them at all. You can put them in, and I did in my previous runs, but again, you aren't worrying so much about the students in this challenge. It's about janitor training and capturing ghosts. So the students are very much a secondary objective, especially considering we only have 1 year to do this in. They're not going to be, we're not worrying about them graduating or attaining a specific grade. You just need to keep that thing high enough to keep a decent amount of money rolling in so that it offsets your wages. One other thing that I forgot to do at the beginning of this, I am recording the commentary after the fact here, so I'm recording on top of it, but I'm going to mention this now. Set your staff break policy to 0%. It'll keep them out in the field a lot longer. They might get a little bit unhappy, but as long as you keep them out capturing ghosts, you want to hit that target as quickly as possible, because if you can get this done in around about May time, which I didn't, but if you can, your janitors leaving won't be so much of an issue. So yeah, I ended up having my break period set at the standard 20% for most of the year before I finally remembered to reduce it down to 0%. Other than that though, that's pretty much it. And as you can see, we're looking down here at our timetable now, just while I'm picking up some more janitors for training. But if you look at September, October and January, they're the times when our science lab is being used. After January, the February, May and June classes only take place in lecture theatres. So as soon as January comes to an end, we can sell off the science lab, get a little bit more money in the bank, and then we'll be able to train up and hire some more janitors. So around about now, we're at 43 ghosts captured, but it is starting to tick up quite nicely, and we have 10 janitors. Not all of them are trained in ghost capture though, so that's something we're going to need to be aware of. What you don't want to do is hire so many janitors that you don't have enough time to train them all. Now, Kirsty mentioned in her comment that she had 35 janitors by the end of the playthrough. I ended up ending this with around about 32, I think. But all of them, I think, ended up being trained fully in ghost capture by the end of the year. Now, it is doable, and you can get this really high up and hit like a much higher number than I have, but I was pretty happy with my total number. But as you can see here, we're just continuing to reject requests for a library and just watching over the campus for any potential hauntings. Now, the hauntings you can spot before they get to the stage that it's at in the science lab right now. You'll see little kind of ticks of little nods to a haunting about to happen. Like at the moment in the dormitory there, you've got some posters, there's a green fog there. That's got to a little bit more of an advanced stage. But before all of that, you'll get objects starting to wiggle a little bit and little nods to the fact that a haunting might be about to happen. So just look out for them. I'm playing at a faster speed because I'm trying to get through this quite quickly so I can put out the video. So I haven't had a lot of time to kind of look out for that. But if you are playing a little bit slow paced and you're wanting to kind of just do this step by step, you'll be able to slow down and really watch over your campus, especially if you play it this way and you only have 5 rooms to deal with. But posters or little objects in the room will start to have a little bit of a wiggle and a move. That's when you know a haunting's about to happen. If you then drop a janitor into that room, they'll de-haunt it before it becomes a full-on like paranormal activity site. And once that's done, they can get straight back to capturing ghosts. So if you want to play it a little bit slower and look out for them, it's probably worth it, because the more time a janitor is in there de-haunting a room, the less time they're out in the corridors fighting ghosts. But again, it's very similar, very grindy. You're going back, you're hiring janitors, you're putting them in a training pool, and then you're just watching the campus. Our student happiness has dropped to around about 32% due to the ectoplasm everywhere dragging the environmental rating down. So if you do want to play it a little bit safer and you have the money, you can hire another couple of janitors to just clean up. You can see now we've moved on to a grade-based union funding system, which is really good because student happiness had dropped quite significantly. We're now at $26,688 per month, based on a 56% student grade attainability rating. I'm not sure how it works out, and I'm not quite sure what grades they need to be at to increase that, but obviously the higher the better. And that's why we have our private tuition room in, because it's cheaper to have the private tuition room than to hire some high rated teachers and pay them a little bit more, because those fine margins, if we're not going to be making a great deal of money every month, all add up. And previously I'd been trying to maximize the amount of money that I was bringing in, but being unsuccessful, because by the time I have enough money to do all of my training and stuff and hire all of those janitors, I was unable to train them quick enough to capture all of the ghosts. Also, where the ghosts congregate is really important. If you have a longer campus, there's a lot more space in between those rooms. And that means, like, that's why we sacrifice rooms like the library, toilets and showers, because they kind of would increase the overall corridor size here, where if we keep it nice and tight like we have here, it's a lot easier. Now, you do see ghosts in rooms, and that does happen, but they largely congregate in the main corridors of your campus, and it looks chaotic here. It's not amazing, but it's a way of doing it. You can see now we've kind of almost got to the halfway point of January, and we are on 185 ghosts, so we've kind of caught up a little bit, but we're still behind schedule. And if we're going to get to 700, we need a lot more janitors trained. But our finances are in a little bit of difficulty at the moment. We're at 2,100, but here we are. Let's have a look at what we've got. We have more ghost capture trainees that we can put in there. We've got quite a few janitors who haven't been queued up yet due to a lack of funds, but we've got a lot of janitors in there who I've not taken their staff assignment roles. I've not changed them, so they've managed to clean everything up. And you can see there, just by checking our courses, the science lab is about to become obsolete. We've got 19 janitors right now, and we're at the halfway point pretty much. So we're just going to start changing their maintenance stuff so that they aren't cleaning up. I did change my only maintenance janitor to, they changed their name to Cleaner McCleanerson, so I knew not to train them for one, and also not to change their staff assignments. You can see there in the lecture theatre, a haunting is starting to kick off, but everywhere else is looking pretty good, and we are now at the midpoint, end of January. We can actually schedule a little bit more training in and then sell our science lab because it is no longer needed. So we can sell it just before that haunting kicks off and eliminate the haunting altogether because the room is gone. So I get that I'm kind of repeating myself a lot, but it really is a little bit of a fine kind of dance to do this challenge. I'm pausing the game now so I can get rid of that science lab. That gives us a nice 20 grand boost to our coffers, which allows us to hire a bunch more janitors. Now, you can see there's one with aerodynamics. I'm going to take them on as well, just because right now I'd rather hire quantity and take the risk. It's only about like $350 more, but it's going to allow us to queue up a bunch more ghost capture trained janitors, including some with aerodynamics. We already have a few on our staff roster, so it's quite nice to expand that, because if they're able to move around the campus quicker, they can get from ghost to ghost in a much quicker way. However, because it's a small campus, they're always going to find a ghost roaming the corridors, so it's not too much of an issue if you can't get aerodynamics trained janitors. You could kind of go down the route of trying to get your finances up and improving the number of training pods you have, or just generally improving the actual levels of those training pods, but I didn't go down that route. I did in previous playthroughs and it didn't get me anywhere, so going at it this way, much easier, much quicker, and you will get the gold objectives complete. Continuing to reject requests for a library also benefits you too. So we're at 256 now, and it looks like we're quite far off. But the more we train these janitors, the quicker that we're going to capture ghosts. Just looking right now, this is the moment in the run where I finally decide to get rid of that need threshold for breaks. So if you'd done that earlier, you probably would have been able to have your janitors out in the field a lot longer and have them capturing ghosts a lot quicker. Another little tip is if you drag a janitor across and drop them directly into their training room, you can do this and queue them up for training immediately. Really good tip. I knew about it and I forget about it every time. It's really cool, like little things that are added to the game that you don't necessarily notice. But at this point, it looks like we're not going to do it. However, because we're starting to build a really good profile of janitors that are being trained, we are going to really speed up the number of ghosts that we capture, and it makes the whole process a lot quicker. So don't worry if you're around about this point at the midpoint of the year. We've got 5 months left, and around about 434 ghosts to capture, which seems like a lot. But the pace at which we capture them will dramatically increase due to the number of janitors that we have trained in ghost capture and the size of our campus. Keeping it small is your best way forward for this. And I'm going to be honest, I don't like the idea of removing my rooms and stuff. I like to have a campus that kind of would still run theoretically. And maybe I'd come back at a later date and do this challenge again and try and not get rid of any rooms, but it's the best way to do the challenge at the moment, and it's the quickest way. For me, personally, I only got about 780 or something ghosts at the end of this, or it might have been even less than that. But Kirsty, who gave me all of the tips for this level, managed to get 900, so well done to you. You definitely beat my score. I was just happy to get the gold star after so many bloody fails at this one. I mean, really, this is a bit of a guide, and I'm sure you'll pick stuff up from it, but I'm not talking a lot about stuff because you are literally just watching. It's a very grindy kind of feel to it where you're just churning things out. There's not a lot of micromanagement to it in reality. You just need to make sure you're doing things at the right time, making sure you look after your money, and continuing to improve things. I suppose what we could do, once the grades are done, we can actually get rid of the private tuition room. That would mean there's less focus on grades, because it basically goes through happiness, then grades, then it moves on to attractiveness, and then it goes back to happiness. So once the grades one is done, you can get rid of the private tuition. I can't say how quickly it happens. There we go. We've just moved on to environment. So what we could do is get rid of private tuition because students aren't going to need to use that now. There you go. If you have a look in the bottom left there, you can see the little nods to a haunting about to happen, where there's stuff shaking, we're getting lights flickering, the radiator's shaking. You can't really see a lot of it in great detail because I'm hiring janitors as we go, but that's the nod that you need to look out for. And then we finally get the blue mist coming in, and that's when the haunting is almost at capacity. So you need to be aware of those things and try and catch them before they develop fully. I'm not sure how much of an impact it does have, but it's always worth doing it so that that timer for dehaunting a room starts at the shortest possible amount of time for a room to be dehaunted. So we are just about to hit the 400 ghosts captured mark, which takes us up to our silver objective, giving us 3 months to get 300 ghosts. Obviously, going off the idea that you're going to need around about 60 a month, we really need to up our game. However, now that we're at 424, that means we need, 275 or 276. So we're getting closer, and the speed at which we're getting these ghosts captured is going to eventually outstrip the amount that we need, and we'll actually hit the objective. So I was pretty confident at this point until I got that bankruptcy warning. If you go bankrupt on any of these challenges, it's an instant fail, and the amount of money that you need to be in debt to become bankrupt is a lot less than the actual career modes. So you need to make sure you constantly make some money, because at this point it would be devastating if you failed a level due to a bankruptcy. So we are just trying to manage our finances a little bit more, watching the timer as we get to the end of May, and now might be a good time to sell our private tuition room, but I'd like to keep it just in case. We'll sell it, get rid of it, takes us up into the green again, and we're fine. So obviously we're going to drop back down into debt and probably get another bankruptcy warning, and we've got about 175 left to get in 2 months. There we go, back down into debt, 18,000 in debt. So it's a good job we sold that private tuition room when we did. Now what we can do is, as we're approaching the last few months, it's probably going to be a good idea to just make sure that we get our janitors back in. Hopefully we'll have all of them trained. You can see how unhappy our students are, so we're not going to make a lot of money into the last month. I'm going to sack my teachers now, because sack all but one of my teachers, because there's only one lecture theatre left, one class left for the year, so we can reduce our outgoings that way. And you can see now we're at 599, 600 going into the last month and a half of the year. So it's very tight, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to do it now. If we can get to like needing about 50 or something by July, we'll definitely be safe. And as we come to the end of June, things are starting to look a little bit bare, so we're going to sell our training room. There's no point, we're not going to get any more training done, so we might as well sell the room, give us a bit of financial security, and then hopefully our ghosts will all be captured. We're at 656, so yeah, we've done it. We've hit 700. We've got 2 rooms left in the campus, the lecture theatre and the dorm, and our janitors are just going wild on things now. So again, the constant request for the library, keep denying them, keep denying any other stuff, because your money is very important in this level. And that's going to take us over the mark. We've got, 10 left, and very quickly capturing them, and there we have it, 700 ghosts captured. So just to wrap it all up, the kind of main things you need to do: build as small a room as you can when you're putting these rooms in. Try and boost the attractiveness rating and the heat rating up to 90% at least. And then it's all about hiring and training janitors. When you don't need your rooms, sell them. Make sure you've got some food and drink for your students and stuff. My voice totally went there. It's been a bit of a long run, this one, I will admit. And then we're left with a dormitory at the end and a couple of vending machines. But we hit 769 ghosts captured, and that is Gradeyard Shift complete with a gold shield. This was different. It was difficult. It requires kind of management tactics that I don't really approve of, but, you know, you get there in the end, and it's a fun level to play around with, and I'm sure at some point I'd like to have a go again and try not to do it this way. But if you are looking to get that gold shield for this level, this is the best way to do it, in my opinion. Thank you to Kirsty for your tips. They will be showing up now if you want to have a look at them yourselves, and they showed up at the beginning of the video. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I hope this helps you get that gold rating in Gradeyard Shift. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.